Well, welcome, viewers and listeners, to another edition of CHP Talks. We're here with a repeat guest, Mr. Jim Karahalios, who is the leader of the New Blue Party of Ontario. Jim, welcome to the show.
It's great to be back. Thank you, Rod. It's good. It's always good chatting with you.
And I'm going to give you a little bit of an introduction. It's been a while since you had you on the show. New Blue, that Jim is representing as leader, is an anti-establishment center-right political party in the Canadian province of Ontario, and they are in an election right now. Jim's wife, Belinda, was the party's first member of the provincial parliament. Jim is a corporate lawyer with a bachelor and master's degree in civil engineering. He founded Axe the Tax, opposing the carbon tax policies of Ontario's PC party, and later put the spotlight on electoral irregularities within that party. Jim's wife, Belinda, served as MPP for the Cambridge district, at that time representing the Ontario Progressive Conservative Party, until conscience demanded that she strike out with the New Blue Party and go a different direction, as she saw the terrible direction of the Progressive Conservatives. The New Blue Party of Ontario was officially registered on January 7, 2021. And Jim is the party leader. His wife Belinda is at his side as they contest their second provincial election. They are pro-life, pro-family, and pro-freedom. And Jim, again, it's a privilege to have you on the show today. We hope it's a good day for you, and the days ahead will be good days for you.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the support, and it's great to be back. We got walloped with a snowstorm here in Ontario, making campaigning very challenging, but 108 candidates across Ontario, and we're hoping to build on our result from 2022, which was our first election.
Wonderful. So did this... it's kind of the Ontario election was a surprise to me. Was it a surprise to you?
You know, I want to say no, and I want to sound like the smart, the smart guy in the room, Rod, that we're ahead of everything. But Belinda is a former MPP, is on top of all the information coming out of Queen's Park. She's reading the bills on a daily basis. She's reading all the insider journalists, Queen's Park this and Queen's Park that. They have these different small media outlets. And so they were projecting an early election for quite a while, and we were taking candidate applications for quite a while before. But I didn't believe it, Rod. I'll be honest with you. A year and a half before the majority is up, the lobbyists are having a great time running the government behind the PC party. I was thinking, why would they put that at risk? And then I thought, if they do it, it'll probably be April. Then they come out of New Year's and they usher it in. They call it at the end of January in the middle of this terrible weather for a February 27th vote. I was a little surprised. And we got to work right away to register the close to 60 candidates that we had identified. And then fortunately, only Providence could explain it. I didn't think we were going to get many more candidates than that. And I was not sure how many of the 60, I can't remember the exact number we had in January identified. I didn't know how many of them would actually go through with it with such a quick election. But we had another 40 plus who were thinking about it finally step forward and commit as soon as the writ dropped. And it was a mad scramble for 10 days to get all 108 candidates on the ballot, including a couple who quit on us. The established party stole a candidate from us. Good riddance. And another one got cold feet the morning of the deadline, believe it or not, and quit. And we had a backup plan there of someone who was also interested in running. We had to go get the signatures again. Then we had local returning officers, Rod, that were fighting with a dozen of our candidates, different individuals, from Sudbury down to the London area to Toronto to Eastern GTA, that were giving us a hard time with the packages. They were declining the packages for ridiculous made-up rules they were just making up that weren't founded in law or policy. Things like the postal code wasn't written by the person signing, so we're not accepting the package. And, not fights, but arguments ensued with the local returning officers. I had to escalate to Elections Ontario headquarters. Luckily, it all got resolved. We pushed through, we persevered. It was a tough 7 days before the cutoff. but we got 108 candidates on the ballot, and that represents 96% of our vote from the last election. So we got 127,000 votes in our first election. 96% of those voters are going to get to vote for the New Blue again this time.
Oh, wonderful. Well, that's great, and congratulations for pressing in and having that large number of candidates.
Thank you.
Do your candidates have any trouble? I presume, like in BC and like federally, they have to open a bank account. Is that the case in Ontario?
There's all kinds of financial regulations. Election Finance Act pushes down. We had a real tough time after 2022. It was a lot of work to make sure 124 candidates, 124 riding associations, and the party submitted their financial returns. We didn't leave any candidate behind.
Yeah.
We made sure our small team that every candidate filed and every riding filed, so we didn't get any riding deregistered. Our party didn't get deregistered, and none of our candidates got blocked from running again. But there are a lot of those rules, a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of red tape. All that, Rod, is designed to make it harder for new entrants to come in, because the PCs, the Liberals, the NDP, the Greens, they've been around for decades. Our first election, 2022, we got the most votes than any other party in provincial politics in Ontario got in their first election since the NDP, or the precursor to the NDP, in 1934.
Okay.
And there's the bureaucracy is the hardest part, Ron. It's the hardest part of creating a party, running candidates, and maintaining it. You know this.
Yeah.
It's even tougher federally, right? Because I think they're more stringent. But yes, there's all kinds of those rules, and they're looking at bank accounts, and every penny has to be accounted for. And so the work doesn't end on the 27th. It keeps going after that.
Well, that's for sure. In the recent BC provincial election, I was my own financial agent. And of course, getting through, I just exceeded the amount we had to have our campaign audited, because we exceeded
Right.
the $1,000 by just
Right.
a little bit. And of course, then the audit costs more than the amount that you gain. Like,
Yeah.
But,
I'm fortunate because we have on our team, obviously, it's not just me, it's my wife. She's been an MPP for 4 years. We have a board on the New Blue Party that's been there since the beginning. They have experience on the federal and provincial level. And we've got great candidates that are municipal councillors. Dave Brunel, Rhonda Jubinville is a name you may have heard of in southwestern Ontario, because after the last election, they both got elected to a municipal office after they ran for the New Blue. They're running for us again. We're very grateful that we have sitting municipal councillors that are running for the New Blue. Stephen Kittris is another great candidate who was a municipal councillor previously and is running for the second time. So we're very fortunate. We have a lot of knowledge on the ground of people who kind of know the system and know the obstacles and the pitfalls.
Yeah.
Because 108 candidates for one person is a lot of work.
Yeah. Well, what I was wondering about the bank account, I know it seems like we have had more trouble as the years go by opening bank accounts. So it seems like the bank managers have been sort of scared that they're going to somehow violate the law.
Really?
They impose their own additional restrictions far beyond what Elections Canada or Elections BC asked for. And we found fewer banks where we really want to deal. And I just wondered if you're having the same problem there.
We do when on the local level, yes, because depending on what branch they go to and what they know, it can become a headache. But through God's will and perseverance is the only way to overcome it, because the red tape and the obnoxious personalities you'll bump into, like those local returning officers that were trying to make it harder for us to get candidates on the ballot. If you don't have perseverance and you don't have the right objectives as to why you're doing it, it's easy to just forget about it. Because there's times when I get frustrated and I say, how much longer can I do this? I'm amazed by you, Rod. Like, I don't know how you do it for so long, and you're always even keeled. You always have a great spirit about you, and because you're doing it for the right reasons, and that's the only thing that keeps us dealing with the troubling side of politics and getting 108 candidates on the ballot one more time.
Yeah. So, do you have pretty regular, like, will all of your candidates have the opportunity to be in all candidate debates? Up here, I know in the North BC, like, we have a lot of debates. I'm in this large district federally of Skeena-Bulkley Valley, and I think in one year I was in 15 debates, half of them in high schools and colleges, but the rest in various villages. But I know I've talked to some people in the East where they're either, there is no debate at all, or I think some in Quebec, some of our candidates have said, yeah, there was not even a debate called in their district. So how
In
does that?
2022, I didn't get invited to the local debate. They just skipped me.
Oh,
Belinda Rogers pretended like they forgot to invite her, so they let her do a recorded video. She just finished the debate with Rogers this time around, so somehow Rogers remembered to invite her this time around, probably because we gave him a hard time. I've been invited to a debate this year locally. For the rest of our candidates, it really depends. It's hit and miss. The bigger, I guess, tragedy for us last time in 2022 is the rules that the debate commission made to get on the debate stage as a leader was you have to run a candidate in every riding and you had to have an MPP. And we achieved that. We had more candidates than the Liberals who ran 122. And then they changed the rule and they said you had to have an MPP that was elected as an MPP for your party. They changed it after the fact. So locally, you're going to look at the same thing. I don't know if Rhonda's been invited, for example. Rhonda Jubinville's been invited to her local debate. And I'm going to guess maybe she hasn't because she's been really outspoken on conservative issues there. Everyone knows her position, that she's pro-life. Everyone knows Rhonda in her constituency. And everyone knows that the New Blue is pro-life and is against the woke agenda from our policy declaration, from our constitution and founding principles. And so on the local scene, you tend to, get debate organizers who don't want to hear from those people, those icky pro-lifers with Christian values and ethics. We don't want those people. We don't want to give them a microphone. So it's really hit and miss. It depends on the candidate and it depends on the local organizers.
yeah, yeah. Well, we always have believed that if you go through the process to register as a candidate, you should have the opportunity to speak to the people, the same as anybody else. The debate organizers or the newspapers should not decide who might get elected and who might not. It's, any candidate who's registered can be elected if enough people vote for them. But if
Yes.
people don't know about them or don't get to hear from them, these newspapers, CBC, radio, and they kind of tip the scales, certainly in public opinion, because people don't hear much about you, then they don't know that there's an alternative, right? So,
Well, there's a great way to get around that, and that's doing what we're doing right now. And that's why I'm grateful that you've had me on. We could probably get a lot more reach. We will get a lot more reach doing this talk between us, and we'll distribute it to our list than we would, for example, a Rogers debate. Rogers debate, if we don't distribute it, very few people are going to watch it. And I guess that's one of the unfortunate things about politics is a lot of people have given up. And increasingly, a lot of people don't have faith in their life. And so when you don't have faith in your life, you lose hope, right? And when you lose hope, you disengage in a lot of different aspects, especially things that are upsetting you. And when you think of the state of politics in Ontario, you think the PCs, the Liberals, the NDP, the Greens. Most people in Ontario know there's something wrong with the system, and they know there's something wrong with these parties because it doesn't matter what color you vote in. You're getting the same lobbyists, the same scandals, the same cronyism. And if you don't have faith to keep you going, it's easy to just throw in the towel. And we're seeing voter turnout in Ontario drop. Last time it was under 50%. Doug Ford's hoping for the same thing this time. Wow. He's hoping in a winter election he's not going to get very much voter turnout. And the number one job for the New Blue Party is to clean house, but also to give people hope, to say, hey, there's an alternative. And we've been moving the needle for many years and getting the establishment parties to copy us in a lot of our platforms.
Well, I noticed
the bigger we get, the more we could do it. Yes.
Yeah, you mentioned axe attacks way back. and now Pierre Poilievre is riding on that slogan. We think, of course, just jumping into federal for a minute here, we think you need to go much further than just axing the tax. You need to actually oppose the whole global warming, climate change hoax,
Absolutely.
and you need to defend carbon dioxide, not find other ways to to deal with it. But hey, carbon dioxide is not a toxin; it's plant food. But anyway,
Yeah,
but
I mean, it's more than just axe the carbon tax. I took the position that you've got to be against Kyoto and its follow-up, which is the Paris Accord. Of course, Poilievre voted in favor of the Paris Accord when he was an MP under Andrew Scheer. And then he loves the axe the carbon tax slogan. I don't think he's actually promised to wipe it out. Similarly, in Ontario, Doug Ford ran on the axe the carbon tax slogan because it was popular. After I ran the campaign for a couple of years, and they sued me, they kicked me out of the party, all this nonsense. But what Doug Ford did is he brought in an industrial carbon tax, and he calls it a carbon price to make it sound like it's not a tax.
right.
And he's also created like a registry where industry has to register their emissions, which also is a form of red tape. But after that, Rod, there were also other policies like on the social side that we were advocating for, Belinda as an MPP. One example is the drug injection sites.
Yeah.
Belinda was the only MPP at Queen's Park for her 4-year term that was openly fighting against drug injection sites. They were planning on putting one in Cambridge. The PCs had decided to fund and were funding over 20 across Ontario.
Wow.
Everyone kind of dismissed her at Queen's Park like a fool. She didn't have any backup from any MPPs.
Wow.
Unfortunately, Rick Nichols, Randy Hillier, they didn't support her on that advocacy. But we're seeing now, like 2-3 years later, Rod, governments, the provincial government and the Liberals and the NDP and municipal left-wing mayors have walked back their aggressive pursuit of drug injection sites. And that's, doing good campaigning and putting the issue on the map and being ahead of the curve early. And then you'll see all the politicians because as soon as you move one of the parties in Ontario, they all start to agree, right? Like the carbon tax, most people are against it now. So you see Bonnie Crombie's against the carbon tax now. Drug injection sites, the Ford PCs finally started walking some of them back. They're still funding a lot, not 20. They haven't gotten rid of them all, but they don't champion them anymore. Another example is the NDP put forward a bill on critical race theory in 2022. They wanted to fine students, the ability to fine a student, like children, fine them, monetary fine, if they showed any subconscious racism. Every single PC MPP voted in favor of that bill. Unfortunately, Rick Nichols as well. Belinda was the only one to vote against it. It was really, she took abuse for it. Now, this time around, you're not seeing the same kind of championing of critical race theory in the education system. And we've seen at the local level, because of some parent groups stepping forward and pushing back, some of those champions of critical race theory resigning from their seats and stepping back. So there is hope. If you push and you get the parties to move, they all move together.
Yeah. Well, my dad used to have a saying, you can accomplish anything if you don't care who gets the credit. And it's hard to not care. It feels a little disappointing, but like in BC, for instance, we've been talking about SOGI and the terrible stuff going on in schools, the indoctrination of students, which now has resulted in, actually students being manipulated into making bad lifestyle choices that will affect them for their lifetimes. Now parents are rising up, and now you see both federally and provincially, leaders like in BC, it's BC Conservative John Rustad and Pierre Poilievre. They're sort of coming against the most extreme things that are happening in the schools. But we've been talking about it since 2008, and
Right.
these guys actually voted for some of the precursors of what's going on in the schools today. So we're glad that they're moving in our direction slowly, but we would like to see them actually bite the bullet and say, yeah, this stuff is wrong. There's only two genders. We're not going to be overriding the wishes of the parents and
It takes time.
indoctrinating their children, right?
It takes time. And you're right. There was a younger version of me, Rod, that I'll admit it to you. When you're younger, you're a little foolish. I helped a lot of candidates run for leadership. I was helping Monty McNaughton, teaching him why we've got to oppose the sex ed curriculum when he ran for PC leader. I helped Tanya Granick Allen a lot when she ran for PC leader, helping her with speech writing, helping her with her debate prep, and great ideas that I would share with them, like getting rid of the wind turbines. And a lot of times those politicians, when they get successful, they kind of forget about you, right? So it's, when you're younger, when you are your younger self, it's easier to say, oh, they forgot about me. And, don't I get a little credit for that great idea? Well, those days are kind of over. You kind of learn to mature and move past that. I think getting sick with cancer was part of it. It's a big wake-up call for me, and persevering through that with faith. And, there's no one better to help than my wife, because with my wife was a real, it's a lot better working as a team with your family. And so now I've gotten to a point where we're just concerned with getting the issues out there, and we're not really concerned about who's getting credit. We were at church 4 weeks ago at church, right when the writ dropped. We were at church, and two men were standing. My wife was to my right, and two men were to her right, and my son had just gone off to Sunday school. And the two men were talking about, in the middle of church service. But anyway, they were talking about the election that just got dropped. And kind of like, loud enough where they knew we could hear. Yeah. And they mentioned the New Blue Party. And they said, oh, they got great ideas, the New Blue Party, but they're never going to win, right? Mm-hmm. And my wife was kind of frustrated that they were saying that. And we quickly came to realize they didn't know that it was us.
Okay.
They knew the New Blue brand, but they didn't know that we were the ones behind it. So the Jim of 20 years ago would probably get upset with that. I'm the guy that created this. But now I see something like that as a great indicator of the strength of the party. When the brand is bigger than me and Belinda, we know that we're going somewhere. The Christian Heritage Party brand, I'm sure more people know of that brand than know of you. And that's great work that you've done to create a brand of a party that means something to people, because I'm not going to do this forever, Rod. I can't. I take abuse all the time behind the scenes. But it's good to have a brand that we can pass on, and we've got great candidates coming up that, will know the party will exist after I decide to hang it up.
Right on, right on. So I wonder if you could, this might be a tall order, but name sort of three things with the the progressive conservatives, Doug Ford people, three things that they're doing that are, kind of dangerous for the province, things that you object to, and maybe three things that are the most important things for that you are proposing as policies that you'd like to see implemented. And you don't, in any order you want, but just deal with a few of the major issues and what you're going to do about them.
So I'll name three of that cover kind of the three big categories. So first, Doug Ford has outspent Kathleen Wynne. So I'm going to say that again. We have this propaganda that circulates in political circles in Canada and Ontario that as bad as the Conservatives, the PCs are, it'd be worse with the Liberals. Well, Doug Ford's worse than the Liberals, because Kathleen Wynne was the most radical premier that we had, and he's spending more than her outside of COVID. We're not even talking about COVID. And this is from the Fraser Institute, which is like on fiscal issues conservative. And he's never introduced a permanent personal income tax relief cut. Never. He's done the $200 check. So that's the fiscal side, terrible. Social side, the woke agenda is on fire in Ontario. Belinda blew the whistle a couple months ago. Doug Ford continues to invest in and allow the promotion of DEI initiatives. in education, healthcare, and other sectors of the government. So those are the two big issues. Now I'm going to talk to you about a third one. I can sit here and I can list you a long list of social and fiscal policies that the PCs are terrible on. And a lot of people that are going to watch this are going to say, so then why don't you just go into the PC party and fix it from the inside? Because that's the other propaganda piece that they give us. And the reality is you cannot fix it from within the PC party because they no longer have open elections. So I ran for PC president in 2018. They rigged the vote against me. It's still in court. They stuffed ballots. Ever since then, there are no longer elections for nominations in the PC party, and there are no longer elections for party president. So if you're a pro-life Christian person and you want to run in the PC party in Ontario, unless you're kissing the ring of the lobbyist that runs Doug Ford, you're not getting in. And you're not going to be allowed to talk your values, and you're going to have to sell out your values to survive in there. And that's why the New Blue Party exists, fundamentally. Because sure, it would make a lot more sense, theoretically, to do what Donald Trump did. My wife and I tried. When I started, I had hair. I don't have it anymore, Rod. No one's tried harder than me to reform it from the inside. It's impossible because there are no laws protecting against the corrupt actors that are rigging elections and fooling people. And so that's the fundamental premise of why we started the New Blue Party, to clean house at Queen's Park and bring back accountability and to allow conservatives to engage in the political process and be involved.
Yeah, excellent. Well, when Christian Heritage Party was started back in 1986, when we were first registered, the reason that the founders, both Catholic and Protestant, they got together to form our party, the reason they told me they did that was because they had worked in the big parties for years to help people get elected, and they found as soon as they got to Ottawa, they forgot all about their promises on social values. They came under the party discipline and the will of the leader. And this whole idea, the most important thing is getting elected, and the second most important thing is getting reelected. Never mind, the values that you said you represented. So that's why our party was formed, in a similar sense, to cling to the moral values. We think those are more important. Without, if we continue to violate God's principles, especially in terms of life and family, and freedom, then we can't expect God's blessing on our nation. And I'm sure the same is true for Ontario.
Absolutely, because he's always watching. So you can fool some of the people, but you can't fool him.
Exactly.
And he's always watching, and that's what I was taught from my parents. And, there are things that, I'll say a couple of things to that. Our party is the only party in Ontario that has a grassroots policy declaration. And that's not just, when I say the only party, that's not just PCs, Liberals, NDP, and Greens, because they don't do grassroots policy anymore. That's all the small parties, too. They don't have a grassroots policy process. They have the leader and a few people getting around a table, creating a policy platform. We had a convention last year where we had a process where people could submit policy ideas. We all got together for a weekend in Waterloo. We rented a hall, the Knights of Columbus, and we had Protestants, Orthodox Christians, Catholics, evangelicals come together. And the only Christians, if we can call them Christians, Seventh-day Adventists. We don't have any of those, probably because Derek Sloan and I don't get along, if we can call them Christians, but we have all different stripes. And they came together, and we've got great policies in place. And, one of the policies was to create a parental bill of rights in Ontario, brought forward by our members, voted on, and it's on newblueontario.com. Another one, to stop the woke activism in our schools, is another policy that we've put forward. And these are aggressive social policies that we have in place in our policy declaration, voted on by our members. Importantly, the New Blue Party supports the protection and dignity of all human life from conception to natural death. Full stop. We don't have any exceptions, carve-outs to that policy. Under any of the other parties, this, Rod, they'd never allow a policy like that to go to a convention and be debated, and they would never allow it to be published on their website. And this isn't something that we drafted up. This was, I let it, our team let it go at convention. It's not a 100% in favor of debate. We had some people that say, well, how is this going to get sold to the public? But we don't hide from our values and our principles. It's right on our website. There's no carve-outs. There's no exceptions to our principles and our values. And it's voted on by our membership.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Anything else that you want our listeners to know? Of course, we have people from across the country listening in, but I'm sure what happens in Ontario is of significance to all Canadians. I happened to be in Ontario during the last provincial election, so and we certainly are watching this one closely. I do hope that people listening don't just give the PCPs, a rubber stamp to carry on with the policies. Like, it doesn't matter, you call it conservative. If it's not conservative, then it's leading people down the wrong path. So what else would you like to make sure our listeners hear before we close off for today?
I'll say this. Obviously the goal is to get elected an MPP at Queen's Park, and eventually to gain official opposition status, and then eventually government. Those are all eventual goals. But in the in-between stage, we have goals of holding accountable the establishment parties and raising issues that the establishment parties are afraid to raise. And that's not just at a campaign time, that's in between elections as well. And we do it all the time. We don't just, throw in the towel after Belinda wasn't reelected in Cambridge, because these are uphill battles. After the four establishment left-wing parties, the PCs, the Liberals, the NDP, and the Greens, we have by far and away the most candidates running at 108, targeted in our strongest 108 ridings, where we have 96% of our vote. There's other parties like the Libertarian Party. They've got I don't know, a dozen candidates or so running. There's other smaller parties that are not running very many candidates. Randy Hillier is not standing for election in this campaign. Tom Marazzo is not standing for election in this campaign. I think the next party under us has 30-something candidates. So we have 2.5 times more candidates running for the New Blue than any other party except for the Big Four. So if you want your vote to help grow something that's going to keep bringing up important issues in between elections, that's going to make the New Blue Party and the things we champion stronger, a stronger voice that the media can't ignore, I ask you to seriously consider for the New Blue Party, so that we can keep championing our advocacy against drug injection sites, our advocacy in favor of pro-life positions, our advocacy against the woke agenda and DEI initiatives, fighting for two genders and not making it a mainstream idea that it's crazy to think that there's two genders.
Yeah.
A vote for us is a vote that strengthens that party and makes it a stronger the fifth biggest party in Ontario. So I ask you to vote wisely and don't skip the vote on February 27th. And I ask you to vote for the New Blue.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. And I see behind you on the wall your website, newblueontario.com. That's good. We will put that in our show notes as well. Jim Karahalios, leader of the New Blue Party, thank you so much. And greetings to Belinda. And as the two of you carry on in this struggle together, it's great to have that companionship running in the uphill battle that we know it is, fighting for the culture in the culture wars of this generation. So
thank you, Ron. Thank you for your prayers.
Wish you all the best, and thanks for joining us today, taking time out of your busy schedule.
No, thank you, Rod. Thank you, and God bless.
Okay, bye-bye.